Plaintiff Judith Rising says she's here today to get her son some help because he is severely addicted to heroin. Judith claims her son's best friend just died after overdosing on heroin, so she's desperate, and she's suing him today for an unpaid loan. Defendant Devin Turcott admits he's a heroin addict, but says he grew up watching his mother abuse crack cocaine and even witnessed her solicit herself for drugs. Devin's countersuing his mother for emotional distress.
Start with you.
Thank you for having me on the show, Your Honor. This is my last resort for my son. I am here not really for the $100. I am here to get help for my son, not to ask, but to beg for help. My son is, he's a drug addict. He started using heroin, I believe, 2 years ago. He is injecting heroin. This $100 is just one example of many Western Unions I have sent to him over time.
Sent to him where? Do you all live in the same town?
He's gone back and forth between, I am from Michigan as well.
What part?
Ann Arbor area. And he's no longer allowed in my home for drug-related reasons. I think he has some problems out there. I'm sorry?
He rip you off?
Oh my gosh, over and over and over. Yes, I mean, he lost a car recently. It's a big mystery as to where it went.
I'm worried about you being victimized. If that was his car or not?
No, this car was
your car?
But he has ripped me off.
Okay.
But I'm just here just to get him help, not really to seek financial retribution. But there's been a great deal of emotional stress that he's caused.
Yeah, and that's what I'm trying to get to.
Yeah.
Because he's suing you for the emotional distress.
Right. Maybe I didn't send the Western
So I'm trying
Union
to see who had
enough.
the most emotional distress. And that's why I was delving into the specifics. And that is whether he ripped you off a lot. And then when you say he sold a car, was that your car or his car?
I'm not sure what he did with the car, but it was his own car. It was his own car.
He owned it. All right. And so my point is, I'm not interested in discussing what he sold off his back. I'm interested in how much he ripped mama off, which is a frequent pattern for drug addicts. And that causes emotional distress. I hope him selling his own car isn't a big source of emotional distress for you. You got enough distress with him stealing your stuff. Worry about what he can sell: his shoes, his shirt, his underwear. We'll let him sell whatever he has. Just don't rip you off. Right. That should be your attitude. And that's kind of, not quite, but a tough love. When you hit bottom, then you'll go and get help. And that's typically the case. A drug addict has to hit their lowest point when no one is there to help them, when they can't even get enough money off the street begging. That's when they say it's time to go get clean. I've hit my bottom and there's no way up. And so that's what I'm doing. So let me allow him to speak, sir. Unfold your hands. You're not in the street. This is a court.
Sorry.
Okay, go ahead.
First of all, my car is impounded because it was stolen, and I'm working with the police to get that back. So I want to clarify that. It was stolen while I was recently.
Are you addicted to heroin?
Yes, I am, Your Honor.
Okay.
And it was my choice to pick up the drug, and I don't blame anybody on it. I blame anybody for it, but part of it was what I grew up around, and that was growing up around my father trying to hide me and my brother from my mother. And as soon as I went into high school, and I went from my dad transporting me and my brother to school every day to me and my brother having more freedom, hanging out with our friends after school, that's when she started sliding up. She was addicted to crack cocaine. She showed me my first drug, how to use it. I've seen her get beat. I've seen her.
How old were you when you started your first drug?
15. She gave me my first joint. She smoked crack. She solicited herself for drugs.
You saw her
I personally witnessed her solicit herself.
Where were you all at? Selling, smoking crack. Where were you?
My mom had, my dad would move around.
Were you addicted to crack?
I was not.
Okay, where did you see her use crack?
In her apartment in Ludlow.
Tell me what happened. Give me the scenario. She denies it totally. So far, you're kind of blaming your troubles on her. And I would have to ask you, before we go any further, do you think anyone has suffered worse upbringing than you?
Absolutely.
Do you think there are millions of people who have the same type of upbringing of neglect and perhaps abuse?
A lot worse.
So do you think you were weaker than them? Why did you go to heroin? Because you're blaming all this on your mother because of her negligence and or abuse. You're saying that's why, that's what you're saying. So my question is, if there are millions of people like you and they didn't go to heroin, does that make you weaker than them? Or does that make the case that it's not all on her?
I'm just saying it's statistically proven that if you grow up with a parent
you get on heroin?
You can look it up.
No, you the one said it. I don't need to look it up.
This is what I've learned.
Now you're talking like a dope fiend, telling me to look something up. When the last time you've been to rehab? Right, you can't even remember.
2 months ago?
You can't even remember, and you still like this? Goodbye. Ain't nobody gonna treat you like a baby. Let you blame your mother for your condition.
Your Honor, his best friend just died last week from a heroin overdose. I am desperate. I had no reason to come to Chicago and do this other than to beg for help.
He's not ready, you see? You can't send anyone to rehab or treat them unless they commit a crime and you jail them and order them to do so. Otherwise, they have to decide to do so because we'll put him in rehab and he'll waste our money. When he's ready, not when mama begs for him. When he says, I'm ready, bring him back.
He was saying that about an hour or two ago, that he was ready.
You saw what happened, man. You saw what happened. You're not ready when you lie and manipulate and blame others. You're not ready. That's the opposite sign. Everything he was doing was the opposite. Because when you're acting like a dope fiend and don't want to get help, I will call you a dope fiend or a crackhead if you're denying it. If you come in and you say, I want help. Yes, I'm doing these things. I don't want to do them. I want help. Then I'll say, okay, we're going to get your help since you're addicted to heroin. You're a heroin addict. But you're a dope fiend if you don't even acknowledge that you want help. Yeah, he went 2 months ago. But now he's been back on heroin immediately. So he probably was forced to go for some reason. So to wait him out until he's ready to go because there's nothing else we can do.
What if
he'll walk out in 1 week? Pardon?
What if he walks back in right now if someone talks to him? I mean, I'll admit I wasn't the perfect mother. I had to do what I could to get through nursing school. I mean, this was 21 years ago, to support my family.
Ma'am, this is a very typical manipulative maneuver by a drug addict, is to blame their drug addiction on something other than themselves so that they can first excuse their behavior and secondly, extract something out of the person they are suggesting victimize them. Mama, you owe me. Mama, give me money. Mama, buy me things. Why? Because you made me a drug addict. You didn't come home till 2 a.m. So now I'm a drug addict. Don't let anybody victimize you all like that. And I say you all because there are millions of parents who are dealing with this opioid crisis. And don't let your child try and blame you. I started drugs when I was 11. He's talking about 15. I started carrying a gun at age 12. Started doing many vicious crimes around that same time. Mother worked 2 jobs, was never in the home because of that. But I didn't go around saying it's because my mama not home when I became an adult and saw and looked back after changing my life, or even when I was in jail. I'm here because my mama didn't come home. I'm here because I was a little hoodlum that wanted to be a gangbanger or a gangster, and until I changed, until I said, I want to change my life, there's nothing you could do. My mother used to beg me, plead with me every day. I had a whooping every single day. People don't believe it. I had a whooping every single day of my life for at least 5 years. Nothing would change me. Went to juvenile a few times. Didn't change me. went to jail, adult jail. It wasn't going to change me. All I was doing those 7 months until my mother came and visited me and said she was dying of cancer, all I was doing at that time was plotting with the older guys in jail on what we were gonna do when we got out.
Right.
Not one interest in changing my life. Not one day that I said I need to stop. Until my mother said, I'm dying. Doctor said I got 12 months to less than 12 months, and you're here behind the bars again. That changed me. I said, oh, I'm gonna change before she dies. Sure enough, I was in college 2 months before she died. So she did see that. So that's what you gotta wait on. Wait on him. Pray, as my mother did. My mother prayed often, and part of that, I think, affected my behavior. I think that affected my change. I believe in prayer. I'm gonna grant your judgment by default. He walked out, and secondly, dismiss his claim. All right, took a long time talking about this, but it's well worth it because millions upon millions of families are suffering from the opioid epidemic as they did with the crack epidemic, and we want to make sure we address it, the opioid addiction, because we failed on the crack addiction to address it. Judgment.